Are you interested in making your own bone broth powder, your own bouillon powder, or your own broth powder? Well, look no further. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make your own broth powder. It's Jody with All About the Harvest, where I teach you how to grow, use, and preserve your harvest. And today I am going to tell you exactly how I made my own turkey bone broth powder. So let's dive in. So I started out by making my own turkey bone broth. If you've never made your own bone broth, I am going to be recording a video on exactly how to do that. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can get that video when it comes out. I will also be making another video that teaches you the various tips and tricks that you need to know when making bone broth. And so you'll also want to subscribe to my channel if you already make bone broth but want to know some of those tips and tricks. So what I did is I made the turkey bone broth. I saved 3 quarts of bone broth, so that's 12 cups. And I set that aside and I put it in a stock pot and I put that on a lower heat setting, just under a simmer. So it wasn't simmering, but the steam was coming off of the top. I left it uncovered. And what I was trying to do by doing that is I was trying to reduce that down. So I went from 12 cups down to 2 cups of stock. Now, you could keep going if you wanted to, but I felt like that was good for me. So what I did is I put that in my dehydrator and I created dehydrator trays for that. So after I had my bone broth boiled down, then I went ahead and dehydrated that liquid. I have an Excalibur 9-tray dehydrator. I made bowls with my Excalibur Paraflex sheets. And it's really simple, and what I will do is I will link a separate video on how to make the bowls, and I will link that here. Then I put it in the dehydrator and I put it in 3 separate trays and I dehydrated it at 160 degrees. You want to dehydrate it until you can peel those sheets off, and I'll show you a picture here. And after I could peel them, I dehydrated it again just a little bit longer to make sure that it was good. At this time, I think I dropped it to 155 degrees. You're just going to want to dehydrate it until it is dry. So after I was done dehydrating it, then I took it off of those sheets and I put it in a bowl just to cool. Here's a picture of that. So then after I did that, I put it in a blender, and I have a video of me doing that here. All right, so I have the dried turkey bone broth in my Blendtec blender, and now I'm gonna go ahead and blend it. Looks pretty good. Looks really good. It smells even better. So I'm going to measure this up and let you know how much we got. So my 12 cups originally, I boiled down to 2 cups. Then the 2 cups I ground down into powder, and that powder ended up being 5 tablespoons. So I did the math, and 1.25 teaspoons will equal 1 cup of broth. So you definitely want to know how much broth you started with so that when it comes down to the end and you have so much powder, then you can figure out, okay, how much water do I need to add to this to reconstitute it to be to the normal broth that I had prior to dehydrating and boiling that down. So that's why I did that calculation, and then I wrote that right on the top of my lid here, that 1.25 teaspoons equals 1 cup, so that I know exactly how much to add to whatever recipe it is I'm using this in. I put it in this 4-ounce jar and I vacuum sealed the lid on, so it's staying on, it's not coming off. If you want to know how to vacuum seal dried goods in jars so that they stay like this, I have a video on how to do that. I will link that up above, and then I'll also, all of these videos that I'm mentioning, I will put in the description below this video as well, so you can check them out when you're done watching this video. What you also want to do though, after you powder your bone broth, now as you can see in the video, it went pretty quick. If it takes longer, or if you have a lot and say it's taking a long time, sometimes the blades can get really hot and then that can make your powder sticky. And so what a lot of people will do is they'll take that powder, they'll put it back in those bowls in their dehydrator and re-dehydrate it just to get out any residual moisture. Now with mine, it was so quick, it was fine. So I didn't dehydrate it afterwards. One of the tips though you need to know is that you want to get off as much fat from your broth before dehydrating it as possible. So I have a fat skimmer, a fat strainer that I use. I have a really nice one I like. I just got it. It's a 4-cup quantity, and you can strain either warm liquid or cool liquid with it. So I use that with this broth. And this particular broth, I didn't have a lot of additional fat in it, so that helped as well. Typically when I make bone broth, I will add something gelatinous like a pig's foot or something like that, and I didn't have that in this particular turkey bone broth. One of the concerns with dehydrating like a meat broth is that there's fat in there, and then when you're dehydrating that, and then you can potentially go rancid. That is one of the concerns about it. So a lot of people will take this and they will put it in the freezer or in the fridge if they want it for more of a long-term storage. You know, if you want it for a super long-term storage, then put it in your freezer. For me, this is a small amount. I'm going to keep this out. I couldn't find specific scientific-based research on if I should be freezing this or not. I know that by using the vacuum sealer, I am sucking that air out, which is great. Because this is a small amount, I am not going to be putting this in my freezer. If I had a large amount, I might decide to put it in the freezer, but for now I'm just keeping this out. You decide what you want to do. I'm just letting you know that some people say you must put it in the freezer, and some people will put it in the fridge. There are some people that put the majority of it in the freezer and then keep a small amount out on for hand for what they're going to use now. So realistically, it's up to you what you want to do. Please comment below if you have any research-based information on how to properly store these. Do I need to put them in the freezer or in the fridge, or can I just leave them shelf stable? Again, I tried and I couldn't find any evidence-based research. When it comes to food safety, I really like to follow the scientific side of things so that I don't get myself or anyone I know sick, and I just want to make sure that this is okay. I feel like this will be okay, especially since it didn't have a lot of fat. Barely any at all, but I want to make sure that it's safe. So if there's any evidence-based research that you have or any materials on that, I'd love it. Just go ahead and put it in the comments below. That way I can learn, and others that are watching this video can also learn. You don't just have to do this with a bone broth. You could actually do this with a vegetable stock as well. So I just did this with turkey, but you can do this with chicken, beef, vegetable. So when I make each of those stocks or broths in the upcoming months here, then I will be doing the same thing. I'll be setting some of that broth aside. I will be doing this exact same process so that I have a wide variety of the powdered stocks that I have on hand for, when we go camping or making dried soup mixes, dried food mixes. That is something that I want to start doing, is start making some dried meals and getting them in jars so that I just have to add some liquid and I have a meal ready to go. All right, that's it for this week. Again, it's Jody with All About the Harvest, where I teach you how to grow, use, and preserve your harvest. And until next week, happy bouillon making.